There are many people who practice meditation regularly, listen to many guided teachings, and become familiar with the breath and observation. Yet, as soon as they leave the cushion and step into work, relationships, or small daily frictions, emotions quickly sweep them away as if there had never been a moment of stillness before. When this repeats for long enough, a quiet question arises inside: why do I keep meditating but my mind is still chaotic? Still easily irritated, anxious, and uneasy as before, even though on the surface I seem to be following all the instructions correctly. It may be that your meditation is not wrong at all, but what is often overlooked is that your daily life is not yet calm enough. Because if life is still full of conflict, indulgence, and tension, a few minutes of sitting quietly can hardly dissolve what has been accumulating throughout the entire day. Hello, I am Tan from the Lotus Shenton 6 Meditation channel, where we share theories about meditation. And in this video, I would like to present the way of meditation practice that the Buddha taught. In Buddhism, meditation does not need to be separated from daily life, and this path is gradually illuminated by 3 foundational factors: morality, concentration, and wisdom, in which morality is not something distant or abstract, but simply the way you choose to live with yourself and with others. When moral conduct is upheld, the mind naturally becomes lighter without forcing, and from that lightness, a sense of stability begins to form. Just like water that becomes clear by itself when it is no longer stirred. Please pause and observe your in-breath and out-breath to sense your body, mind, and emotions. Inhale, gently follow the breath as it flows through your nose, fills your chest, and reaches down to your belly. Exhale, feel the breath leaving through your nose and notice your belly softening and sinking. From that stability, concentration gradually appears in a natural way, not as tense focus, but as the ability to stay with one thing without being continuously pulled away by familiar emotions and thoughts. And when the mind is sufficiently still, wisdom does not need to be searched for, but opens by itself like a light illuminating, helping us see more clearly what is truly happening within ourselves and in our lives. You cannot have a clear and bright mind while life is still in disorder, because morality is the ground, concentration is the flow. And wisdom is the light that can only appear when the ground is stable and the flow has settled. Meditation, therefore, is not an escape from life, but a journey of letting go of habits driven by desire and old reactions, so that we gradually learn to master the inner world in a gentler and more mindful way. This video will not discuss another new technique to try to control the mind, but will invite you to look again at why morality and concentration are the essential doors through which wisdom can arise clearly and sustainably. And if you have ever felt that you have meditated a lot but not yet very deeply, then the next part of this sharing is for you. When speaking about morality, many people immediately think of religious moral rules, but in meditation practice, morality is much simpler than that. It is the way we do not create additional turmoil in our own minds through each word, action, and daily choice. Keeping moral conduct is not to become a good person in the eyes of others, but so that when you sit alone, the mind is no longer disturbed by guilt, tension, or fear arising from what you have done before. In daily life, every action lacking mindfulness, even a very small one, leaves a subtle aftershock in the mind. And it is precisely these aftershocks that accumulate and make it difficult for the mind to truly settle when you enter meditation. When you lie even just once, the mind has to remember, to guard, to cover up. And that state of vigilance does not disappear when you close your eyes, but continues to smolder in the breath and the body. When anger appears frequently, the body becomes accustomed to tension, the breath turns hurried. And even if you try to relax during meditation, the body still finds it hard to let go because it has learned to live in defense. When life becomes indulgent, chasing pleasure or immediate gratification, the mind develops the habit of never being satisfied. And a mind that does not know enough finds it very difficult to rest with anything, including the breath. Try comparing a person who lives uprightly, consistent in thought, speech, and action, with someone who must live a double life, constantly hiding and coping, and you will see who finds it easier to sit quietly when alone with themselves. A common mistake is thinking that one can meditate deeply while outer life is still full of conflict. As if a few quiet minutes could erase disturbances that have been cultivated all day long. Another mistake is using meditation as a temporary soothing tool to escape discomfort created by an unmindful lifestyle, instead of honestly looking at and adjusting the way one is living. Let us not place too heavy a burden on meditation itself, but gently merge with the breath, allowing each moment of breathing to bring relaxation, ease, and release to both mind and body. Inhale, gently follow the breath as it flows through your nose, fills your chest, and reaches down to your belly. Exhale, feel the breath leaving through your nose and notice your belly softening and sinking. Keeping moral conduct, therefore, does not take away your freedom, but gives back inner lightness. Where you no longer have to struggle against yourself, and this is the most solid foundation for meditation to deepen naturally. When daily life becomes less chaotic through keeping moral conduct, you begin to notice a very subtle change while sitting in meditation, which is that the mind no longer scatters as before, but gradually learns to stay with a simple anchor. Concentration is not about forcing the mind to be still, but a natural state that arises. When the mind is no longer pulled by conflicts, anxieties, and emotional aftershocks accumulated from daily life. At this point, you do not need to try to control the breath, because the absence of defense or resistance allows the body to relax naturally and the breath to become steady, deep, and gentle on its own. Unlike tense focus, concentration carries a quality of softness, alertness, and stability where you clearly know what is happening without being carried away by it. When the mind has concentration, thoughts may still appear, but they pass by like thin clouds, no longer pulling you far away as before, nor forming continuous stories. You begin to clearly feel the difference between having thoughts and being led by thoughts, and this very distance creates a sense of inner stability. Many people mistakenly think that concentration is a special state that must be achieved. But in truth, concentration is simply the natural result of a mind not disturbed by an unmindful way of living. When concentration is present, you do not need to try to prolong it, because the more you try to hold on, the more the mind tightens, while when you leave it alone, concentration sustains itself longer. If it is difficult to focus and settle into calm, simply pay attention to the in-breath and out-breath and count from 1 to 10 whenever confusion arises. Inhale, gently follow the breath as it flows through your nose, fills your chest, and reaches down to your belly. Exhale, feel the breath leaving through your nose and notice your belly softening and sinking. At this stage, meditation is no longer an effort, but feels like sitting down to rest after putting down unnecessary burdens. And precisely within this unforced stillness, a deeper door begins to open, which is wisdom. Wisdom is not about thinking more or understanding new concepts, but the ability to clearly see what is happening in the body and mind without being obscured by reactions. When the mind is sufficiently concentrated, you begin to see how emotions arise, how they exist, and how they fade away on their own instead of identifying with them and calling them me or mine. You realize that much of the suffering you experienced before did not come from circumstances, but from habits of clinging and automatic reactions that you had never clearly seen. This seeing is not judgmental and does not require immediate correction, but is simply a light of awareness, and within that light, many old habits naturally lose their power. When wisdom arises, you no longer rush after pleasant feelings or avoid unpleasant ones, because you clearly see the impermanent nature of both. Questions that once confused you gradually settle down, not because you have perfect answers, but because you are no longer dominated by them as before. Wisdom naturally slows your life down. You speak less, react less, yet become more present in each moment of living. You begin to clearly see the relationship between how you live, how you meditate, and the quality of your mind each day, and you no longer separate meditation from everyday life. At this point, meditation is no longer limited to the time of sitting still, but continues to flow into the way you walk, stand, speak, and relate to others. Each breath always brings clarity, peace, and insight into every sensation and the way we perceive them. So let us return to the breath, often to observe them and to observe both body and mind as well. Inhale, gently follow the breath as it flows through your nose, fills your chest, and reaches down to your belly. Exhale, feel the breath leaving through your nose and notice your belly softening and sinking. And you realize that morality lays the foundation, concentration steadies the mind, and wisdom opens freedom. Not as a distant goal, but as a very natural process when you live and practice in the right direction. Meditation does not truly begin at the moment you sit still with your eyes closed, but begins with the way you think, speak, and act toward yourself in each day of living. When moral conduct is upheld, life becomes less chaotic and less harmful, and the mind naturally grows lighter without needing to force control or push itself into calm. From that uprightness and stability, the mind has a place to rest, no longer stretched tight by regret, worry, or the aftershocks of unmindful actions. As the mind gradually becomes steady, concentration forms like clear, settled water, not through force, but because there is less inner disturbance. And when the mind is sufficiently still, seeing becomes clearer, not because you think more deeply, but because you are no longer obscured by emotions and old habits. Morality brings calm to life, concentration brings stability to the mind, and wisdom makes vision transparent. This is not abstract doctrine, but lived experience that can be directly felt. In the initial stage, you may need to sit for longer periods in the lotus posture to first understand your body and mind. And when a basic level is reached because momentum has already formed, At that point, meditation does not lie in the number of minutes you sit on the cushion. But in the quality of mindfulness you carry into every word, every decision, and every reaction throughout the day. You do not need to become a perfect person in order to practice, but only need enough awareness to observe how you are living and recognize what is making your mind heavier. When life is illuminated by moral conduct, the mind no longer blindly chases desire, and inner freedom begins to arise naturally. Then meditation is no longer a separate period of time, but becomes a continuous process of transformation from the way you live to the way you see the world. When life itself becomes meditation, the cushion is only a place that reminds you to return, not the only place to find calm. At this point, each breath is a return to mindfulness at any time, because it is the bridge that brings us to the most peaceful and awake state. Inhale, gently follow the breath as it flows through your nose, fills your chest, and reaches down to your belly. Exhale, feel the breath leaving through your nose and notice your belly softening and sinking. And the place where meditation truly begins is right here, in this moment when you choose to live more mindfully, more lightly, and more truthfully right now. The journey in the game of breath will become more and more fascinating if you truly cherish it. This practice, just like a habit, is a key to unlocking every doorway within your body and mind. So keep watching and keep practicing with me in this video and the ones to come. If you have any thoughts or reflections, feel free to leave a comment below. And if this video helped or inspired you, please click like, subscribe, and share it with others. Thank you.